Since I'm currently going over the human characters of that time I got reincarnated as a slime, I thought that it would be a good idea to give an overall explanation on the human species of this world. That's why in today's video, we'll be taking a look at the human race in general, the evolutionary stages of the race itself, and other information regarding them as well. As always, there will be information from the light novel, so here's a spoiler warning for everyone just in case. Also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Tensura content in the future.
姉さん、来やしたぜ。あれがヨウム、英雄っす。
First of all, a little backstory about the human race. When the Tensura world was first created by the Star King Dragon Valdenava, it was just an empty world. He really liked the world that he created, but he found it to be boring and stagnant, so he created a being known as the Divine Ancestor, and this being would be given the name of Twilight Valentine. The Divine Ancestor was then tasked by Valdenava to create interesting beings to inhabit in the new world that he created. So through numerous testings and experiments, the Divine Ancestor was able to create the various races that we will see in the Tensura world. The earliest of these races were the High Humans, Vampires, and the High Elves, which the Divine Ancestor created by analyzing his own body. He also created 3 prominent figures to lead their respective race and help them to spread across this new world. The 3 figures were the High Human Jahil, the Vampire Luminous Valentine, and the High Elf Sylvia Auleu. Now, for the High Human Jahil, he would eventually go on to establish one of the very first and most powerful human civilizations to ever exist, called the Great Magic Empire. He would then give himself the title of the Great Wizard Jahil, and through the Great Magic Empire, humanity was able to prosper. But the civilization of the High Humans would eventually fall when Jahil decided to wage war against the vampires and the High Elves. Because the war lasted for 100 years and wanting to end the war, Jahil summoned the Red Primordial Rouge, one of the oldest demons, to help defeat his enemies. The Red Primordial completed Jahil's request, but for payment, he completely wiped out the entire Great Magic Empire. After the fall of their civilization, the remaining High Humans spread around the world, and generations later, their descendants would become the main human race we see in present day. Humanity was only able to barely recover thanks to the knowledge of the Great Magic Empire that managed to survive. However, present-day humanity would never be able to reach the same heights as it once did because of Valdenava. The reason was he had grown to love humanity, and after witnessing the fall of the High Humans, he realized that they would just eventually destroy themselves. That's why he tasked the primordial angels Dino, Gracia, and Pico to live in the human world and monitor them, while additionally asking the Red Primordial, who was now going by the name of Gi, to become the enemy of humanity. Gi then created the Demon Lords, and they would essentially use fear to rebuke the human race when they became arrogant and crushed anyone that grew too powerful. Of course, not wanting Gi and the Demon Lords to go overboard, the chosen or true hero was created by Valdenava to serve as a deterrent to them. This system was basically what stopped humanity from destroying themselves and allowed them to prosper until present day. Now that we talked about the origins of the human race, let's talk about the general traits or characteristics of them. To start, humans are very different from the other races in numerous ways, and by default, humans have no internal magicuse in their bodies, meaning they cannot produce their own magicuse like monsters or magic-born creatures. And because of this weakness, a majority of the human race is quite weak to excessive amounts of magicuse, which will often lead to magical poisoning. To overcome this, humans can either learn magic to manipulate the magicuse around them or boost their own holy powers to increase their magical resistance. But of course, not every human has the ability and talent to do so, so most human settlements or cities just rely on barriers to reduce the magicuse to a level that is safe for humans. And the only good thing about not having internal magicuse is that humans won't be affected by low magicuse places or succumbing to techniques or abilities that affect magicuse. This is also one of the reasons why humans can have as many children as they want, because they don't have to worry about losing their magicuse after giving birth. Also, names are common for humans because the naming process has no effect on them, unlike for monsters or magic-born creatures. Additionally, humans are also mostly immune to the holy attribute like the angel race. That said, thanks to how creative and adaptable humans are, they managed to develop many ways to overcome their weaknesses. For example, using the knowledge passed down from the Great Magic Empire, humans are able to perform holy magic and even harness the powers of spirits to help them. Using their understanding of spirits or spirit engineering, humans can use spiritrons to create various magic-infused items, tools, or equipment. Now, besides that, humans also use and develop various types of arts, techniques performed by manipulating the user's innate battle aura. Unlike skills, which most humans go their lives without even acquiring, arts are something that can be obtained by any humans given enough training and effort. Additionally, humans are social and fragile creatures, so they will often stay in groups and are more inclined to work together to achieve their goals. That's why humans develop legion magic that enables them to use numbers to their advantage over stronger enemies. However, there are threats that humans can't even hope to contest. That's why human nations will often perform illegal summoning rituals to bring powerful otherworlders to the world in hopes of summoning ones that can become their protector and hero. That's because most otherworlders that are successfully summoned will often possess a unique skill and immense amount of magic skills, making them far stronger than the average humans of this world. But other than summoning otherworlders to help them, humans also align themselves with some of the other races, mainly the elves, hobbits, dwarves, and other fairy-type creatures. Now, there are some races that humans are hostile towards, and they mainly classify them as monsters regardless if they have sentience or not, like goblins, lizardmen, direwolves, orcs, and a few more. As for magic-born races like vampires, giants, ogres, and demons, it's a bit complicated because humans aren't exactly hostile towards them, it's more like the humans feared and coveted their power. Also, human souls are quite valuable because of their insanely strong willpower and spirit. That's why magic-born creatures like demons often use human souls as sources of energy to become stronger. Having said that, humans are inherently weak creatures when compared to most races in the Tensura world, because unlike semi-spiritual or fully spiritual life forms, humans are bound by their physical bodies, and whatever happens to their physical bodies will mostly result in death for them. Being a purely physical being is also the reason why humans can only live up to around 100 years old, which is considered short in the Tensura world. But there are ways for humans to overcome this weakness by surpassing their own limits and evolving into a higher existence. So let's go over the different evolutionary stages of the human race. Starting at the base level, we have normal humans, and there are 2 evolutionary stages after that. Since I already went over the normal humans, we'll move on to the next evolutionary stage for the human race, known as enlightened or sage, depending on translation. At the level of a sage, they are considered the guardians of mankind and are slowly becoming personally connected to the voice of the world. Basically, it just means their lifespans are greatly increased, their resilience is higher, and they'll transform into a semi-spiritual life form. Now, the conditions for evolving from a normal human into a sage are very obscure, but it seems like those who manage to become a sage usually experience some form of intense training or life and death situation. Their willpower and spirit also become stronger, making it more difficult to be affected by enemies or even getting their spirits destroyed. That's why people who reach the level of sage possesses enormous powers, having their physical prowess and control in magic strengthened far beyond what a normal human can do. But despite their high combat abilities, their actual skills still varied and will depend on the person or the type of equipment they use. But in terms of raw power, sages are able to easily rival Demon Lord Seeds, and all sages will possess at least a calamity to disaster class threat level. Some examples of humans who have become sages are Dalman when he was still alive, the wizard Ghidorah, Hinata before her awakening, and several members of the 10 Great Saints. But moving on, saints are the next evolutionary stage for the human race and is considered to be the highest level a human can reach. And just like a sage, conditions for becoming a saint are unknown, but it doesn't seem like it is something that can be obtained through training alone. The only times that humans have been shown evolving into saints are during intense battles when they are faced with extreme adversities or highly emotional moments. Also, there are special cases where sages can use other methods to briefly become a saint, like when Hinata used her Holy Spirit armaments to boost her powers to the level of a saint. However, when someone is able to truly become a saint, it means that they have a very strong mental fortitude and willpower, giving them a better chance of manifesting their own ultimate skills. Additionally, their bodies will start transforming into a fully spiritual life form, but the process itself is very slow as it takes time for their material and spiritual bodies to fully merge, unlike with monsters or magic-born creatures who can evolve instantly. Another drawback is that a newly awakened saint would not be much of a threat as compared to a newly awakened monster or magic-born creature, because they require time to properly grasp their new powers. Also, the difference with evolving into a saint is that the human body and appearance will mostly remain the same, although they do become younger after evolving. When someone completes their evolution into a saint, they'll have complete control over their bodies as a fully spiritual life form, so they no longer need any food, water or rest, although they might still eat or sleep simply because of their previous habits. Now, in terms of power, saints are equal to an awakened true demon lord, and the minimum threat level of a saint is at the disaster class or super awakened level with an existence value of at least 1 million more or less. As for examples of saints, we have Hinata Sakaguchi, Yuki Kagrazaka, Emperor Rudra, Tatsuya Kondo, Damrada, and several members of the Eastern Empire Imperial Near Guards. Now, I did say there are only 2 evolutionary stages for humans, but in volume 16 of the light novel, a term known as Shinjin was mentioned once. I do not know if this is the next evolutionary stage after Saint or something else, so I'll just mention it here. But what do you think a Shinjin is? Let me know your opinions in the comment section down below. Anyways, there are other methods for humans to increase their powers as well without having to evolve into a sage or saint. For example, a person can choose to abandon their own humanity and use various methods to turn themselves into margins, monsters, or human hybrids to extend their life and power. But even then, the rate of success varies a lot, and if successful, they also risk being ostracized or hunted down by other humans that see them as abominations. A good example of a human becoming a margin is Muran, who became one after she met Clayman. So moving on, there's one last thing I wanted to go over, and that is the chosen or true hero class of the Tensura world. Essentially, a hero is considered to be the direct counterpart of demon lords, and they are both bound by causality, with their sources of powers being the same from the spirit of light and spirit of darkness. As for how a person can reach the class of hero, the conditions are quite strict because they cannot simply rely on talent, hard work, and training alone. They needed to have a hero's egg inside of them, only then they will be recognized by the voice of the world as a real hero. Now, just having a hero's egg is already enough to make someone a hero, like how a demon lord seed is technically considered a demon lord as well. But to hatch the hero's egg and awaken as a true hero, they have to receive the endorsements of the spirits, mainly the spirit of light, and they have to possess the resolve and willpower to become the hope of humanity. Because if they lack confidence and possess doubt within their hearts, they will be unable to awaken, like the case with Hinata, who couldn't awaken as a true hero even though she has met all the requirements. Now, as for notable true heroes, we have the Platinum Saber Leon Cromwell, Hero Alike Grabber Rosso, First Hero Rura Nam-U Naska, Lightspeed Hero Masauki Honjo, and finally Hinata Sakaguchi. Also a special mention for Chloe Aubert, or also known as the Hero Konoha, the only known hero to have 2 awakened hero's egg inside of her. For the average threat level of holders of a hero's egg, they are the same as Demon Lord seeds, ranging from the Calamity to Disaster class, but for the awakened true heroes, their threat levels rival the true Demon Lords, mostly ranging from Disaster to Catastrophe class, so being called a hero is quite serious. That's why there actually exists another kind of hero, those who are dumb enough to call themselves heroes without knowing the consequences, and they usually don't possess a hero's egg. However, being a self-proclaimed hero is dangerous because, as Million put it, demon lords don't take kindly to people who misuses the term hero, and they will often invite divine wrath upon themselves if they are not careful. That's why it's better to use the term champion instead of hero, like how Yom was chosen to be a champion. And funny enough, Gabiru was actually dumb enough to say that he's a hero in front of Million. Luckily, he wasn't murdered by her. But anyways, that's pretty much everything about the human race and heroes of the Tensura world. I hope I was able to cover everything about them, and if I've missed anything, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hitting that notification bell for more anime and Tensura content in the future. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe everyone.